All right, what up YouTube? You guys ready to dive deep into some recent Twitter drama? It's so funny watching people try to argue for ETH 2.0 or ETH and all the drama that's going on Twitter and these VCs that are abandoning ETH and all this drama that's starting. And then you're gonna watch these, VC capitalists that are pumping Avalanche right now. These guys with like billions-dollar bankrolls are just pumping the crap out of Avalanche because it's the next coin that, like I say, when like the Wizard of Oz, and I feel like the deeper I dive into the blockchain and the more I learn about scalability and throughput and what it means to be infinitely scalable, and we take a look at something like Kane versus like Ethereum, and then you hear these guys talking about Ethereum and Avalanche and what's the difference and how Ethereum's gonna scale, and talking about what limitations that Avalanche has and what limitations that Solana has when the network gets overwhelmed. It's because they're proof of stake. Why can Ethereum get so overwhelmed? Because it's proof of work. I think that your mempools react differently and there's more memory when you're actually mining a blockchain than when it's a proof of stake and the only mempool you have is just that size, and once it gets overloaded, it can't scale anymore. It can't get any bigger. The network just breaks. So you hear these guys, they're gonna rag on Avalanche, they're gonna rag on Solana, and then what Ethereum's turning into is Avalanche and Solana. That's what I just don't get. Trying to roll things up in these ZK rollups and then bring them back and put them back on the main chain and then have 1,000 sharded chains. I don't know. I'm just gonna let you guys hear this and let me know what you guys think.
VCs abandoning Ethereum, at least the fund managers. There was some crypto Twitter drama over the weekend, David. I know you saw it.
An oversupply
you were part
of
it.
Yeah, I was a part
absolutely.
of it. Yeah, so Suzu really started this whole thing off. But Suzu is a member of 3 Hours Capital. 3 Hours Capital, they are traders. They trade on narratives. They make big moves over like maybe a couple months to half a year to year-long time horizon moves, and they just trade Bitcoin
and they're
dominance.
really good at it.
They're really good at it. Yeah,
they've been doing it for a long time.
Yes, yeah, they move markets. They literally have billions and billions of dollars, and so people pay attention to what these guys say because when whoever's got $1 billion like captures a bunch of attention, especially when they have the track record that they do. Lately, since the last like maybe 6 months or so, they have heavily been promoting Avalanche on Twitter. And this is what they do. This is the classic, this is what a lot of people do in this industry, and not even inside this industry, especially in this industry, but also even in the legacy industry. Funds do this, hedge funds do this, Goldman Sachs does this. They fill and then they shill. What that means is that they fill their bags and then they talk about Goldman Sachs will take a position in something and then they'll publish some price target. It's really them just pumping their bags, right?
Well, you remember when Cuban came on, Mark Cuban, he was like, get long, then get loud.
Yes.
That's his mantra for investing. Same thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Suzu, Kyle Davies, really a conspiracy about why they're doing this is that they missed the Solana run, yet they saw Avalanche as the next obvious target for a similar run on the heels of Solana.
I had to come back really quick. So think about this too. If these billionaires are doing this to these top blockchains because they have the ability to, shilling Avalanche is one thing, shilling Solana is one thing. You're pumping these things, but they can't deliver. What do you think is going to happen when these billionaires start doing this to Kane? Crumb out there.
And so it started pumping Avalanche really hard.
And if they get loud, they can kind of make it a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
They can kind of make it happen if they get enough people to believe it.
Yeah, Suzu has 500,000 followers on Twitter. Kyle Davies has a couple 100,000 as well. People pay attention to these things, and they have consistently been pumping Solana, Avalanche. And the Ethereum community tolerates this sort of behavior. They know a lot of people they don't like it, but this is part of the game. They understand that traders gonna trade. It's different. Especially a lot of these ETH killers start actively fudding Ethereum with just straight up false information and misinformation, and then also start to attacking some of the actual purpose and meaning of the builders and what they're building. And that is what happened here. Kane from Kane Warwick started this thing off saying, a lot of people I respected earlier in this cycle have sold out in pursuit of profit maximalism, chasing opportunistic gains at the expense of their reputation. Remember this when they all come flooding back to the Ethereum ecosystem once L2 scaling becomes inevitable.
I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but when you guys say people are abandoning ETH, we're not abandoning ETH. We've all been on ETH this entire time. We've been promised that ETH 2.0 is coming since 2016. It was supposed to be here in 2017, then 2018, then 2019, then 2020, 2021. Here goes another year that we still have not had ETH 2.0. We're not abandoning it. We've supported it, we've paid outrageous gas fees, and we're on a network that we can't onboard new users. We can't bring new people into the crypto space and expect them to bite the bullet and interact with Ethereum when gas fees are $100 to $200. It's just that simple, guys. Nothing to do with about abandoning ETH. And we're all more than happy to come back to Ethereum when they get it together. Like when they go to ETH 2.0 and they can scale, and then we can actually show that we can actually interact on their marketplace, and they can prove that they're not just going to be another proof of stake blockchain that can't scale. Like once all those things happen, yeah, we'll pick up right where we left off, but we're not abandoning ETH. We're just sick of being lied to. And why do you think all these developers keep leaving Ethereum? Like the only person left on the original Ethereum team is Vitalik. And it's just that simple. They all had different ideas. They all had different opinions. They all wanted to go a different way. Charles went his way. Gavin Woods went his way. Vitalik went his way. And yet to this day, we still have no layer 1 that can actually infinitely scale. Even Polkadot only has 100 parachains. That's it. So when we talk about these layer 1 scaling solutions, how does anything outperform Kadena? They can't. None of them can. They all wanted to be Kadena, and there's only one Kadena.
A lot of people in this space who trade on narratives and not on fundamentals. And that's another dividing line between like the debates, like people who trade on narratives or people who trade on fundamentals. What happens next is that Suzu responds to this tweet. This billionaire trader who's like doing the whole filled in chill thing, being critiqued by Kane Warwick, who is not a billionaire, but might be kind of close, definitely upwards of 500 million. And these two like very wealthy people going after it, one claiming that the other one is like dishonest and illegitimate, right? Suzu says, you literally chose the worst scaling solution possible for your users to defend your own ETH bags, therefore making your own community actually poor. Now you have the audacity to insult anyone not as ETH-tarded as you. Good for you, is what Suzu said to Kane. So very, very spicy.
Is that good
spicy.
for you? Is that go F yourself?
Oh, that's go F yourself. That's go F yourself.
Okay.
That's what that is. Yeah, I kind of made that up on the spot. I didn't really know what it was.
All right, cool.
Go F yourself. Yeah, okay. And then Kane responds to Sue, the fact that you can't see the distinction between hedging your exposure to crypto in an alternative asset and turning into the shill of a competing L1 is bizarre. I know you're smarter than this, so I'm assuming this is just an emotional response. Day 2, a little bit over 24 hours later, this is last Saturday, Suzu tweets out, yes, I have abandoned Ethereum despite supporting it in the past. Yes, Ethereum has abandoned its users despite supporting them in the past. The idea of sitting around jerking off while watching the burn and concocting purity tests while zero newcomers can afford the chain is gross. And these are some strong words where Ethereum has abandoned its users. That goes to the heart of so many ETH devs, both on the L1 and on all the L2 research that has been going on. The whole concept of rollups is something that was funded by the Ethereum Foundation to independent researchers to figure out the scaling problem. And Suzu's coming in and saying Ethereum has abandoned its users.
Again, I got to step in here, guys. People keep talking about these rollups like they're going to fix something. They have not fixed anything. So Ethereum is funding these things and saying these rollups and these ZK rollups and this and that. But when you actually break down the fundamental mathematics of what a rollup is and how much data you're trying to roll up, and then you have to compress that data and then shoot that data back over to the main chain and put it back on the main chain and have 1,000 independent chains all communicating with the main chain, I don't think you guys actually understand what you guys are actually talking about. So I get that Ethereum's saying all these things. And if the rollups are gonna work, why are they not here? We have 1,000 engineers working on one problem. Don't know, guys. That's all I'm saying. It's like they've been saying these rollups for how long now? Since 2020. And the date just got pushed back again. So now it's June 22nd. Is ETH gonna be here by June 22nd of 2022? Or is it gonna be December of 2024? Or is it gonna be the year after that, or the year after that, or the year after that? It's nothing about Ethereum. We don't have a date, guys. We just want a date. We just want to know, when is this actually gonna happen? Not abandoning ETH.
Because it refuses to juice up the L1 in order to compromise on decentralization, in order to actually create scale enough to fit everyone. So
it begs the question, what does abandoning users actually mean, right? It's like, are you, by centralizing the thing, is that the worst abandonment of users?
Yes, in my mind, abandoning decentralization is the abandonment of the individual, because decentralization and individuals go hand in hand.
But you also said something.
Oh, I actually kind of did say that. So maybe that's a topic for right now.
It's relevant.
So I follow up with this to this Suzu tweet saying, Suzu, Abandoning decentralization is the biggest sin that you can commit in this space. It's easier to fix fees than it is to fix decentralization. A lot of people didn't really like that sin word. However, I did choose it extremely precisely. But that is a kind of a larger elaboration point, which I won't go into here. I definitely got my fair share of flack for this tweet because people were throwing poo left and right on these Twitter threads. But the majority of the critiques was that I was making the assumption that anything that's not Ethereum is, quote, not decentralized, and that I'm co-opting the word decentralization to only mean Ethereum. Well, the thing is, Avalanche is a blockchain that is absolutely, it's a fork of death, and it's just pushing the limits. It's just like juicing up how much throughput that you can actually have on the chain, to the point where, like, if they add any more, the chain falls apart. And they know this because they have had to cap the number of validators that can validate the chain, because if there's too many nodes, not enough nodes can sync up to the chain, and it causes the chain to just fork off and not be able to have consensus. Literally the network topples over. And we saw the same exact phenomenon happen with Solana when it went down for 17 hours. Like, it got too juiced, and the network just froze because they just pushed it to the limits too much.
Well, we were just talking earlier about Binance Smart Chain, right? All the issues that validators are having with Binance Smart Chain is because big blocks, and it becomes more centralized and possible to run until the entire thing not only centralizes but then falls over.
Right. So all these same ETH killer chains, what they are really doing is they are just pushing the limits on network throughput up to the point of instability, and then not going actually any further, right? Just like almost unstable, but not quite.
Yes, not all of them get to that point of instability, but all of them get to the point where your MacBook Pro can no longer run an actual non-validating node, right? It has to be in a data center. It has to be a big, strong, beefy machine. And they say that's okay. They say that's fine. And Ethereum says, no, that's not fine. That is centralization. That is the exact thing that we're fighting. That is the old system. We want a more decentralized system here.
Yeah, it really goes, and I'm going to make a video or something about this later, but like, it really goes like, is the network separating its participants into two classes of citizens? The people that can validate the system and the people that are just users of that system.
So all of this, here's the critique, David. All of what you just said, it sounds like you're an ETH maxi. That's what they would say. They would say, you are like doing the same thing that Bitcoin maximalists did previously, in saying the only money is Bitcoin, the only chain is Bitcoin, everything else is just like a shit coin, everything else is garbage, right? Now you're saying that Ethereum's way is the only way. Is this what you're saying? And like, Ethereum equals decentralization, both are the same, but like, these other chains are redefining what decentralization actually means, and your view is too narrow. You are an Ethereum maxim. So what do you say to that critique?
What I say to that critique is there are twofold. There's two things that are really, really important about a network. Who's got all of the tokens and who can run the chain. Those are the two like variables that are really important when it comes to decentralization. What is actually true about this? Someone is right in these criticisms about like, you've gone too far down the centralization spectrum. And so I think that Bitcoin maxis are wrong about Ethereum. They say like, Ethereum's got this pre-mine, it had all these insiders. The Ethereum presale was an open, permissionless, censorship-resistant, non-KYC presale that sold 60 million of the 72 total million Ether, over 9,000 participants on day one, and raised $14 million for funding. Of that 12 million that was left over, half went to the Ethereum Foundation to fund development, and that has part of that, like that EF, like it just pays client teams, pays for research. It gave Starkware a $4 million grant to run ZK rollup technology, which now powers Immutable, SoRare, DYDX, and which 3 Arrows Capital is an investor in. And so like a lot of these, the half of the 12 million that wasn't sold to the public went to funding operations like this. The other half went to like the Ethereum co-founders and early contributors like Vitalik, Joe Lubin, Mihaly, a bunch of other people.
This sounds like distant past, though. Like, so somebody could argue, like, okay, so what? It's distant past. Like, what? Replace. I guess distribution is more concentrated with a Solana or Avalanche or Layer 1, but it'll get less. It'll get more distributed over time, right? It's like eventually some of these people who made a lot of money are gonna actually sell. It'll just get more decentralized. Everything you just talked about for a lot of people, they weren't there in those early days, so they didn't benefit from the crowd sale or any of the upside, right? So like, what about that? You're just saying that the centralization line stops at Ethereum, right? The decentralization line stops at Ethereum. These people are saying, no, it's actually, we could go a little further. We could go to Avalanche, we could go to Solana, and that's fine.
Right. So on the spectrum of things, like Solana and Avalanche are way more decentralized than like your typical commercial bank. Like they are on the decentralization spectrum. But the difference between the Ethereum presale and the VC-backed Avalanche and Solana chains is that the genesis event for the Solana tokens and Avalanche tokens was only given to insider VCs. And so where the Ethereum presale was open and permissionless, it actually having upside to the very beginnings of this network was reserved for already heavily financially capitalized investors. You saw the people on the All In podcast, the 4 billionaires who like are on this big flex fest, talking about their massive Solana bags and how they made $1 billion. It wasn't open to the public. And the first impressions for these chains are really, really important because they create the culture downstream. And so this is also where the actual system design of the blockchains also impacts this, where the centralization of the difficulty of running a node also restricts who can actually verify the chain. And so these things tilt towards centralization over time. Only a few people were able to have early access to the tokens. Only a few people can run the chain. And so the centralization is twofold, right? There's too many people with early bag holders owning the bags, and then there's too few people that can actually validate the chain. And one of the beautiful things about Ethereum's version of proof of stake and also having a proof of work phase prior to that is that there's been this massive distribution event because everyone can run the chain. I started off with mining Ethereum. That my first Ether that I got from mining it myself as an individual because I have the power to do that because of the design of the network of Ethereum.
I mean, am I the only one who's like just asking this simple question, like all of these problems are proof of stake and Ethereum is going to proof of stake. So what makes you guys think that Ethereum's proof of stake is going to be any different than any of these other proof of stakes? It all turned into the pyramid scam. And I shouldn't say pyramid scam, but pyramid-like structure where the people at the top who have the most amount of shares control the most of the votes, control whatever happens to the network. They are rewarded the most of rewards because they have the most amount of Ethereum. Like, it's all the same, guys. You guys are arguing against yourselves, I think. But again, I'm dumb money, guys. So these are just what I'm seeing in the network and what seems to be playing out. So I have no idea. I'm not saying that I'm right and these guys are wrong. I'm just asking some simple questions.
That is not true for Avalanche. That is not true for Solana. You need to have very significant, beefy hardware. You need to have knowledge of how to run a system like this because it's complicated. And then you also need to have a significant supply of the tokens in order to stake on these delegated proof of stake systems. And so it's really about what culture are you instilling in your chain from day one? Are you instilling a culture of decentralization, or are you instilling a culture of pumping the bags of the insiders and restricting the ability for the average individual to run a node or to have access to the upside? And so this is the difference that and I don't ever want to tell someone that they can't go use these systems. This is not a conversation about the users. If you are a user of Avalanche and if you are a user of Solana and you are happy, that is great. We are not talking about you. We are talking about the people that are building these systems and are not thinking about the long-term consequences of decentralization in 5 to 10 to 50 years.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Dave. It's for me, it's not even that these other chains exist on another point of the decentralization spectrum. That is totally fine. I think we should have a rich spectrum of centralized things, side chains and crypto banks, exchanges,
Sure.
A more fintech type of chains, and then we should have things like a decentralized Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of on the other end of the spectrum. What kills me is the decentralization theater, right? It's the pretending to be a thing that you're not. It's a world where you're pretending there are no trade-offs. It's a world in Suzu's original tweet where Avalanche cares about users because it has low gas fees right now, and Ethereum doesn't because it has high gas fees right now, right? Without acknowledging or recognizing the trade-offs. It's the deception that kills me.
Yes.
Okay, it's the deception. The deception
and that's
in
why
order
crypto
to
Twitter
pump
blew
a narrative.
Up. It was the deception.
That's why, yeah, the deception. And deception in pursuit of bag pumping, in pursuit of wealth,
Yes.
right? From people who are already exceptionally wealthy.
Yeah, the
have
wealthiest
done
people in crypto,
exceptionally well. And it's just, this gets back to why we're here and the responsibility that we have, right? As early settlers in these strange new lands, like we're here first. And I feel very strongly that we have a responsibility to future generations to get this whole thing right, because we have one shot at it. Okay. It could be 5 years, 10 years come to pass. Like, I think crypto is inevitable. Blockchain, like, this whole thing is inevitable. What's not inevitable is that on the other side of this, we have a decentralized, open, permissionless money system. That part is not inevitable. What could very much happen is on the other side of this crypto transformation, we make a whole bunch of new bankers super wealthy, and they're just new bankers that, again, control the masses, clamp things down, and become rent extractors, right? That's not, so I think the people in this space who are here now actually should be held to a higher standard, right? And like, they should acknowledge and accept the responsibility. I get if you're a trader, you're just here, you're trying to make money, you're a profit maximalist, that's okay too. Like, we need profit maximalists in this space too. You're a mercenary, okay? They're settlers, they're mercenaries, you're a mercenary, that's fine. But
you keep markets efficient. That's a valuable contribution.
That's valuable. But like, acknowledge you're a mercenary. Don't try to pretend you're a settler and like actually be a mercenary. That's what pisses me off. And I think that's why this tweet, caught fire, right? So it's like,
and that's a wrap, YouTube. So I don't really know where I was going with this one. I just wanted you guys to hear it. I feel like sometimes I'm saying things and everybody's like, questioning what I'm saying or whatever. And it's funny that like when you do start pulling back that curtain from the Wizard of Oz, you're like, wait, infinitely scalable, wait, ZK rollups, wait, unlimited throughput, wait, how? Then you start breaking down the mathematics behind the amount of data that you can actually transport through a 1 gigabit Ethernet cable. Like, you can only send and transmit data through so much data through an Ethernet cable. It's just that simple. Your videos can only download so fast. You can only do so much with one chain. You can only do so much with 3 chains. And then when you have one main chain and you have a bunch, like 100,000 shards of that main chain, I just don't know how it's feasibly possible that you actually scale. Now, maybe I'm missing something, but I think as time goes on, you're just gonna see that dominating player be Cadena. I don't know how else we could support it. If the crypto market, and you hear everybody talk about the crypto market being at mass adoption, being at less than 1%. And we see that every one of these blockchains can't support a few billionaires pumping the coin, or it breaks the network, or gas fees go up, or scalability becomes an issue. We're only at 1%, and everybody says we're not even started. Like, we haven't even done anything yet. Like, this is just still like the absolute ground level. Well, layer 2 scaling solutions didn't work for, layer 2 scaling solutions have not worked for Ethereum. If Ethereum would have been infinitely scalable, or they could have scaled it, they would have. And I don't think we would have half these blockchains, because there's a need for multiple blockchains and multiple ecosystems if one ecosystem can't support it all. But if one ecosystem could support it all, I think that the Ethereum network would look a lot different, and it would be scaling a lot different, and the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem would look a lot different. So I don't know anything. I don't know much, guys. I really don't. I just think that, like, when you look at all the problems that there are in the crypto space, and you look at what you would need to actually fix those problems, and then you look at something like Cadena, and yeah, we don't have CADX. Yeah, we don't have wrapped Ethereum yet. Yeah, we don't have wrapped Bitcoin. Yes, they barely market, definitely Cadena's definitely got a lot to prove, but I think that it actually has the most potential to prove it, and it has the best probability of actually delivering on what they say they're going to deliver. And being like part of the SEC and like so strict, and like how they have to follow the books, like right down to the T, to make sure everything's flawless and everything's following every regulation. And no, you never hear them talk about price. You never hear them slip up and say anything they shouldn't have. Like, they're Johnny on the spot. They're following the rules. They're making sure that when that SEC regulation does come down, that they have the best probability of like surviving that, weathering that storm. So catch you guys in Miami. Peace.